Hello. Hi, Amanda. How you been?
I've been great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for being here. I follow your journey, even though we maybe don't stay in touch as much. I have been seeing you. I know you're active on YouTube. I know you have all these projects that you're like a part of, and I can't wait to really just talk about them. But I just want to say thank you for being a light, for being someone who is not afraid of just fully accepting who they are and being themselves and being vulnerable for people. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And I don't know if I've ever told you, but I really admire your work and I look up to everything that you do. And you're an inspiration. So thank you for being here today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And likewise, I've been watching you for years too, and I know we need to catch up more often, but you're a light too out here. Like you started your podcast back before it was even cool for everyone to have their own podcast. You were like, I know what I'm supposed to do. And I've always admired that. So
I appreciate
yeah.
that. Appreciate that. It's been a journey for sure. Glad to be
Yeah,
back.
welcome back.
Thank you. Lots of cool new tools available nowadays to make things a lot easier. So definitely excited to be able to do so much and save so much
Yeah.
time nowadays. I start the podcast with a little bit of a meditation. It's just super easy meditation. Nothing at the level that you probably are used to or reach. But if you don't mind, it's super easy. We can just do it together. It's very simple. You just inhale love and then exhale gratitude. There we go. Thank you for being here in the moment. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. But before we do, maybe you can talk to me a little bit about where you were when you finally decided to do what you're doing now, or what I think you were probably called to do. And what was it that led to that path? Where did you
Wow.
start?
The $1,000,000 question. So I don't know that I even consciously decided to do what I do now. In fact, I think the best way to put it would be to say I resisted it as much as I possibly could until innumerable ego deaths were like, nah, girl, you're going to do this and you're going to like it. But prior to that, I was working in corporate. Then I went to university because I wanted to do psychedelic guidance through the Johns Hopkins School. They were doing this whole psychedelic program, which closed down during the pandemic, which was exactly when I graduated. So then I started working as a copywriter for a marketing company and just so happened to luck out with two of the most beautiful souls who were really aligned with spirituality. And in a way, they kind of helped put me back onto my path. They were like, you meditate, you hear spirits, you're a spiritual type, you should be doing that. And I was like, no, don't think I should. Don't think I can. They're like, no, you definitely should. And I would give them little downloads like, today the Arcturians are with you and they're saying X, Y, and Z. And they would look at me and be like, you should be doing this. And I was like, no, I'm not qualified. I don't have what it takes. And, I'm not old enough or wise enough. And eventually, they were two huge contributors, along with some other very kind voices in my life that said, no, get to it, like get to it. So I started a channel. I started teaching meditation. We started a podcast, that group and I, which is still going. And it took me into the next phase of my journey, which was accepting who I am. I knew who I was, but I didn't want to accept it.
Yeah, I think a lot of us struggle with acceptance. I actually have a theory tied to that. We can maybe unwind that theory later. But before I even get to that, maybe we can chat a little bit about what was it that you wanted to do before? I mean, just as a kid, when you thought of like career wise, aside from Amanda Land.
Which we'll get into soon, I hope. Um, well, but prior to Amanda Land, which for those who don't know is my plan for the planet when I become the sole leader of the world. But aside from that, I really saw myself as a performer. So I knew I loved making music. I knew I loved entertaining. I knew I loved being in my feels. So I just naturally assumed that that would connect to entertainment. And because I was so imaginative, I often attributed what I was experiencing intuitively and spiritually to the realm of imagination. So I was thinking, I'll just become an actress, a singer, a performer. And after those dreams went away, I said, no, I belong in the corporate world. I belong in some like fancy job that I can boast to my friends about that's super cool, making tons of money, maybe finance, I don't know. Nope.
And so it looks like you did find your path eventually, and, we can talk a little bit about that now, and maybe you can point to the spiritual side and what was so hard about accepting
Yeah.
the gift,
Yeah.
the
Oh my gosh, I wanna
skills
hear
that you
from
have?
you on this too, because I think you can relate on some levels for sure. But I guess I didn't wanna accept who I was because I couldn't see an archetype that already existed that was that. And I don't think I had the confidence and the groundedness and integration to blaze the trail into becoming Amanda Dollinger. So I was like, well, I don't see another me out there. Like there's Marianne Williamson, but there's Oprah and she's awesome, but I can't interview people. There's this person and that person, but none of them were the mirror that I was looking for. So I just assumed that there was no place for me and that maybe I was just misinterpreting my own gifts. I needed to frame them into what already existed. And I suspect that's a misconception that
Mm.
thousands, if not millions of people have.
Yeah, I think the finding I mean, even just to kinda bounce off of what you said, even when looking for a therapist for myself, it was hard for me to trust someone who did not experience, like, first generation Latino, someone who knows what it's like to have a child with someone you're no longer with. Like, there's a lot of things that I didn't realize, like, I had built all this, like, "Hey, I'm" it was my ego, really. It was just kinda like, "I'm special, I'm different, you don't fit my requirements, you don't know what it's like, I've got it so much worse than everybody," or whatever. That was just kinda like my thought process behind it, but, I do think ultimately when you're talking about accepting yourself, and this can
Please.
I can pitch to you my theory. For me, I really truly believe that the depression epidemic or this mental health rise and concerns and anything is because of the lack of being able to accept yourself, and not truly
Yeah.
because you don't accept it, because you don't think others accept you. And when you start, like, when I start processing of, like, what I see my son right now who's 15, and I think it's, like, such a crucial age to develop who you are and how you're gonna be, I see how, like, I've accepted him, my family encourages him, we have all accepted who he is, and he only embraces that and flourishes, I think, even more so, like, he's into dancing, loves dancing, any type of dance, Chris Brown dance, not the allegations on Chris Brown, but the dancing style. He loves the music, reggaeton, salsa, all that stuff, and it's really cool to see him, and sometimes I personally would see that, and I'd be like, "Dang, I would be embarrassed if I danced like that in front of people," right? Like, that's my first thought, but he's so goofy, and he doesn't care, and it's I think a lot of it and he even says it like, "Hey, you kinda, like, giving me the room
Mhm.
to just be myself, and I think that's awesome, and
Yes.
I think that accepting others is important. So, give everybody
Oh
a
my
hug, and
gosh,
I
that's
think
the
that
medicine
we'd
you
be in a
bring to
better
us, and we
place.
need it so
So
desperately. I think you just caught me in a pattern that we might as well talk about if I can riff off of that a little bit. Which is, attribute it to
yeah, go for it.
my astrology sign, attribute it to my upbringing, attribute it to my ethnicity. I don't know what the exact source is, and maybe it's a little bit of all of it, but I was raised in a very judgmental home, in a very judgmental environment. And whether it was judging people's appearance, career, and presentation, or judging their behavior and their mental health and their psychology, everything was under scrutiny at all times. So that developed within me a pattern of judgment of others.
Mm,
And what I learned in my own journey is that lack of acceptance for myself isn't just about me. I'm also projecting that onto other people too. And when I can flip that around and be accepting and celebrating of others as they are, then that in turn brings that right back to me. So acceptance for the self and others are very closely interrelated for me. And that's been a big part of my journey.
yeah, it's great, and when I think you start seeing that and applying it, it's makes the world a difference in anything you do, and that's awesome that your path has aligned, similarly there. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the people who you're currently working with, who you gave credit to? I know you have a podcast with them, and I just wanna touch on that. What do you think was it about them specifically that
Great
made you
question.
see or pivot and say, "Okay, now it's time"?
Well, I remember the first interview that we had on the esoteric level, I saw their spirit guides immediately behind them, and it was an instant click. Like, you have found exactly where you're supposed to land. So on a spiritual level, I was like, okay, green light, let's do this. Now, granted, that was for the job for business, for marketing. So that didn't wind down to the self-help framing for a couple of years. But just working with them in their small business that they created, there's this immense amount of individuality that they embrace and their own humor, their own different way of doing things. They're both first generation immigrants and they're also identical twins. So it's like working with a left brain and a right brain of the hemispheres of the brain externalized. So I can see this play between the two sides, logic and intuition flipping back and forth in front of me. And it's like art. It's just a very well rounded environment. And I was inspired. That's what it was. Inspiration, their artistry and their ingenuity inspired me to be more myself. And I bring up the spiritual aspect because I imagine there's some soul contract there where that was meant to happen, probably.
Can you maybe mention or touch on what a soul contract is for
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
people who have not
A soul
yet
contract is the
experienced that
concept
in their life
that
or don't
we
know what that
have
is?
predestined relationships, that the interactions we have with others or the relationships, whether they're short term or long term, are part of our own development and journey. So other individuals in our life will serve as catalysts for our growth and development so that we align with our destiny. Whether that's good or bad, it varies. You can have a soul contract with someone and it's the most excruciating connection of your life, but if it makes you grow, gosh.
Like my friend's mom. Shout out to my like that one's a bad one.
I'm sorry.
Horrible contract.
No,
Someone needs
that's
to fix
great.
that.
That's true
No,
though.
but,
That's
I
exactly right. Exes are
I'm
a huge
sorry, I
part of
didn't mean
that.
to kick you off. It was
Family
a joke.
members, even the ones that we write off and excommunicate, are part of that. Our parents are our
Yeah.
first soul contracts.
Yeah.
How do we choose our
That's actually a
parents?
good
Well,
path.
it depends
Talk about
on
how we choose our
this is so
parents.
deep, Hugo. Where do you want to go
What
with
does
this?
that mean?
Who's choosing? You want to talk soul or like consciousness itself or ego? Like what's your angle?
So maybe I could tell you
Yeah.
what I've learned, and then you could say if it's similar or if there's a different, like, approach. So for me, soul contracts are made obviously before the life starts, and you are making that contract based
Hmm.
off of what you're trying to either karmically learn or karmically burn is the terms that I kind of use here for that. So, am I here to grow and learn from these people, or am I here to heal and kind of like make this relationship with this soul better, essentially, or these lessons that will come from this connection will also help me develop into what I need to or get what I need to from this person in this life. So for me, when you choose your parents, you're looking at the best situation for your soul in that life to learn, not just because of what your parents like, of course that's a big factor of it, and sometimes it's not even a factor, but sometimes it is. For me it was for sure. And then you're also then make agreements with like your siblings souls and your neighbors souls for like the house that they're in and so on. So I feel like it all starts with the parents and
100%.
then it just kind of
I
goes
think
from
that's
there,
the
but
most
maybe you can touch on
sophisticated way
the
to
other things
share
you
it.
were mentioning.
Lest I fall into a trance here, let me see if I can order myself. So, when you say soul, you're talking about the non-physical aspect of yourself, right? And that's the assumption that we have one aspect that carries through many lives.
Correct.
So the one that came before this, the one that will come after. So from that perspective, let's work with that. It's exactly
Correct.
what you said. I would say not only parents, but primary caregivers. In some cases, like my father's adopted, he never met his biological parents, but his caregivers were his parents through and through. And even though that genetic link wasn't there, it still was hugely influential, obviously, on who he became. And I think that sets us up for our patterning, like not just our genetic code, because all of our
Yeah.
ancestors' experiences live in that code, but the patterning of our idiosyncrasies, our neuroses, our sense of humor, our culture, our preferences, all of the automation that when we're not being present is dictating our reactive response. That comes from our parents.
Yeah, that's a really concerning thing for some people probably listening to
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And it can also be it can also be fun and exciting if you lucked out with some good parents. You know, before we go on any further, I do want to say I also have a part at
Mm,
the end of this podcast. I'm going to ask you for a message or a positive message you want to give on to the next guest. And my previous guest actually left you a message, and they had no idea it was going to be you, or
yeah.
obviously I know that they don't know you. So the message that they left you ready for it? Hopefully it lands. If it doesn't, well, fuck it. Hopefully someone that's listening to this, it lands for them. But this is their message to you. You are capable to be great, and you're capable of becoming the person you want to become. It's always good to remember that it won't be easy. It will be a daily battle.
Mm.
There are no
Hell yeah,
easy
that lands.
routes, because if there
Absolutely.
were, everyone
Absolutely.
else would be able to do it.
Every day is a daily battle. And hey, greatness, Amanda Land. I'm here for it.
So
Thank you. Thank you so much for that transmission.
there you go. You're welcome. And okay, so where we're gonna jump to now is you're doing a lot of things on YouTube with meditations too. You mentioned astrology just a moment ago. And what would you say to the people that are like, astrology, really, bro? Like, or, like, oh, what am I? And then I tell them they're a Taurus, and they're like, yes. And then I'm like, oh, see, I knew it. And then they're like, psych,
Oh, I
I
love it.
lied to
I
you. I'm
would
a
say,
Virgo.
are we allowed to curse on this
Those
show?
people, like, what
Okay,
would you say
just
to those
checking.
skeptics who are
Just
listening?
checking.
Like,
I would say, honestly, fuck astrology. I love
yeah, I
it,
mean, I've already
but
cursed a
it's
couple
just
times. Like,
another language
yeah, you're
for the
good.
same concept with which is what allows you to witness your own patterns. What allows you to witness your automated features? If it's astrology that gives you a template and is like, in my case, Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon, fuck me, Taurus rising, that gives me a whole concept. Okay, I'm an overachiever, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a judgmental bitch. Like all of that is baked into the pie. That helps me to watch out for those patterns, and become more conscious when they start to activate. But if you're not into that or you're already a skeptic, I am not about turning skeptics. That does not turn me on. If you're a skeptic, more power to you. Fuck that. Move on to the thing that resonates and don't waste any of our time. It's like weather, but whether it's raining or sunny, if you have to go to work, you're going to go one way or another. So if the moon is in Uranus, that's not going to stop you from living your day. Now, my opinion, it can be helpful to know what the astrology is doing so you're better prepared. But if you don't need an umbrella, raw dog that shit. That's my take. Just keeping it real, my friend. Keeping it real.
Love that. That's definitely going to be a clip on that. Appreciate that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the hard stuff. So, talk to me a little bit about when you realize that maybe the current path you're on wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
how do I word this? Maybe talk about how you fell off of the desire of being in
Good
that
one.
corporate
Thank
world,
you.
and being that, like, letting go of the idea that you needed to have a job that impressed your friends, to use your own word. Like, what does that feel like to, like,
Depression, in a word.
say, all right, fuck it? Like, what caused
I
you
said, to use my own words
to like
earlier
finally
as
give
well,
up on that?
ego deaths. I don't know if I said innumerable. I'm a big fan of that word. Endless, many, many ego deaths, which are for the uninitiated or for those who don't know the lingo. An ego death is simply where you have a breakdown. Your old pattern and your old way of thinking and believing no longer serves you. So you either physically die with that belief intact, or you go through this huge reckoning where you have to restructure your brain. And in my experience, that can lead to depression because if your identity is built on certain beliefs and things needing to be a certain way, or you needing to present a certain way or be perceived a certain way, you don't allow yourself to live outside of that. That really narrows your life force down. So for me, it was rejection after rejection. I applied in a span of years to probably hundreds of corporate jobs. And it was clear that for whatever reason, it wasn't firing off. I reached out to friends. I got referrals. I got letters of recommendation. I talked to people in industries. Everyone was like, yeah, we'll put in a good word. Something always happened. I initially quit where I was working now and am fortunate enough that I was welcomed back when I needed to come back to the job where I am now. That worked out beautifully. But I was knocking on every door and every single one was locked. So that put me into basically a catatonic state of depression for a couple of years, which was just like in bed, just crying and wondering, what is life? What am I doing? I'm working as hard as I can, doing everything I know how to do, and nothing is working until I started to get it. Maybe you're not supposed to be doing anything right now. Just allow yourself to be reformed and shifted. Like, shut up, lay down, rest, and let the process and time do its work. And after much surrender, it just clicked one day and I was like, oh shit, I should probably be doing like that one thing I'm passionate about. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mm.
think that's my theory on anxiety, by the way. I think people are anxious or get anxiety when they're not doing what their soul or what their purpose is supposed to be doing. And maybe we could talk a little bit about the
Oh my
pandemic and
God. That's so good.
how
What do
that
you think we were
affected you.
supposed to
And
learn?
what do you
Or do you want to go
think
first?
as a collective, what do you think what we were supposed to learn was during that time?
Please.
I think we were supposed to learn. I can answer first if you want. I think we were supposed to learn to respect our planet and to really see. I mean, I think it was 3 months that there was like complete shutdown. And in those 3 months, you saw wildlife come back, you saw plants grow again, you saw the rivers flowing, the everything cleaner, nicer. And it was just a sign to me like, hey, we're not taking care of our home here. Now, with everything else that happened afterwards, I mean, if we're gonna talk about all the situations with like the inflation, the political waves that we've gone through and everything, I think if anything, I just notice how divided people are and how that really damages like your perspective on people. And we focus so much on the things that are dividing us. It's sad because we miss out on all the complete things that really actually unite us and we have way more in common than we think. And I think as a collective, we're currently failing the lesson. But at the same time, it's all because we're not accepting others. I think if we truly just accept someone for who they are, really the only problems we should be having are like, how does everybody get more? How does everybody learn more? How does everybody succeed? I think that's currently why I feel called. And I think I'm not a unifier, but I like to be a person who's like, hey, let's focus on the bigger picture and there's so many things that are that we have in common, and I want to highlight those things versus prejudice versus hate versus,
Wow.
all those
That was beautiful. Thank
unfortunate
you for that.
mishaps or
You just took me back.
misunderstandings even.
I remember having a conversation
Yeah.
before the
So, anywho, what
pandemic. I
about
was I was at a restaurant sitting across from a friend and my words were, "Bring it on. We need a reset, like, bring that shit on." I didn't think it was gonna be real. Then the masks started showing up at Chipotle where I was working as I was putting myself through school, and I was like, "Oh shit, shit's getting kinda real." And then everything started locking down, and next thing you know, shit did in fact get real. That wish came from a part of me that wanted to see societal norms break down. I thought that would be the medicine, like just a chaos bomb. And in retrospect, and now many years post that statement, I think it was a great revealer. I think it revealed the chaos that was already inside of us and the structures that were just propping us up, like go to work, go to the movies, have your entertainment, escapism, even social interactions like community as an escape. All of those were taken away. I think it revealed a lot of dysfunction, and I don't think we've, as you have said, I don't think we've stepped into the healing of that inner conflict and inner dysfunction yet. We see the conflict, everyone's beefing with everyone about the simplest things. I know they're not simple to everyone. To some people, their worldview is like a hill they will die on, and I get that. But I think we got stuck in the stripped away portion, and we haven't stepped into the integration and the being with ourselves and resolving the conflict within. Because from where I stand, conflict is a projection caused by external factors. It's caused by an already existing inner issue.
Yeah, I think one of the favorite things my grandma, rest in peace to my grandma, but one of my favorite things that she would tell me is, to remember that sometimes people don't receive love and they don't have a source. And one of my favorite things she used to do was like
Mm,
just hug people in general, just anybody. It just didn't matter if it was like a friend of mine or the taxi driver. She would thank them and hug them, but mean it. So, just she was always talking about how if people just were treated with kindness, they would learn that it's a normal thing and that that's how they should be. But
yeah,
if they live a whole life without that, then we it's our job to sympathize and understand them because they didn't receive that. Like it's not their fault that they didn't get that. Like I have very great relationship with my parents, which I'm thankful for. But it took my dad a long time to be very caring. And I don't think it was until he became a grandfather where I really got to see the fun side of my dad and like that loving side and tender side. And now even more so with more grandkids, he's become, I don't know, just energized and it's a different guy. And I'm like, that's not these aren't my parents that I grew up with. These are like super cool grandparents now and
yeah. Oh
and
my God.
doing all the things,
Endless room for
never
love.
missing any event and all
And
that
I
stuff.
love
So
that your
I
grandma
think a
was, may
lot of
she rest in
times,
peace, a uniter. I
there's
mean, she
a
lives on in you, obviously.
lot
Hugo
of room
hugs,
for
the whole
love
legacy is
still.
carried right on, and I love that. But she was a uniter. I always think of this human experience as a lucid dream. I do a lot of lucid dream work, so sometimes it's even hard for me to tell the difference. And people are archetypes, and you
Yeah,
have disruptors and you have unifiers. And those unifiers are running around in the video game just bringing everyone together. And I think of that as doing real work in the brain. Like that's uniting the neurons, that's making the neural pathways fire together. That's real work. Simple. It seems simple. Just give someone a hug, but that's a drug, a game changing drug. And I love it.
truly is, especially if you know how to give a hug. There's some people that, geez, they give great hugs. So maybe before we move on to the next
How
part,
much time have you
we
got?
can talk a little bit about the meditation and
I think meditation is being
what do
present
you think
with
meditation
the good,
is
the bad, and the
and
ugly.
why do you
I
think
think
so
a
many people
meditation
resist it?
practice is different than what a meditative state is. I want to say that clearly because some people reach a meditative state, sometimes called a flow state, playing golf or dancing salsa or I don't know, sitting down and picking their nose. I'm not here to say what the
Mm,
activity is, but a meditation practice is building the muscle of your awareness. So, comparing it to the gym, you'd go to the gym to build those muscles, and then you go out into the world to look sexy using those muscles. You do a meditation practice to build your muscle, your awareness muscle, and then you go out into the world, use those sexy meditation muscles, and you're more present in life, in sex, with family, in your art, in your work. You just reach new levels of excellence you didn't even know that you had. I think people resist it because it's not in our patterning. It's totally foreign. Very few people inherit from their ancestors this incredibly mindful present state. I don't know one. You have to drop me one. Maybe like Jesus Christ, Paramahansa Yogananda. I don't know. You know the saints. I don't know. But for the rest of us schmucks, we all inherited this nervous system that's totally at the mercy of our environment. And now we live in an attention economy where our phone is asking for attention, the TV is asking for our attention, everything, people. I mean, you're getting used for your awareness. So, what is going to incentivize a person to capture that awareness back, if not someone telling them that they need to do it? So, I think people resist because it's our nature. And I get that, man. I struggle with that every day.
yeah, I think being present is one of the biggest challenges for people in general. Well, like you said, they're being called on by a million different things,
Hmm.
and living day to day is not something people are used to. Uh, so I can see why meditation can be a challenge.
Nothing.
What about spirituality? Let's
I'm
jump
just
onto that a
falling
little
through the
bit.
void, waiting to go
Where
splat,
where do you think
and it turns out there's no
what do you think
splat
is holding you
yet.
when nothing else
My
does?
version of spirituality is a totally irreverent, who the fuck knows vibe. Having seen aliens, having dropped acid, having done, all the fun things, having meditated myself into a trance, having lucid dreamed, having interfaced with intergalactic extra dimensionals. And in the end, I still don't know what the fuck is going on. So, what is holding me? God, the simulation, the universe, love itself. But love takes on different forms. So, I don't know that I can pin it down to any one thing. Hot topic. Yep. No, I'm
Mhm.
glad you are because
Okay.
I love this topic. Go
You
off.
talked about simulation. Maybe we can bring up AI now because I know it's a hot buzzwords answered here. Great. So for me, AI has actually been really interesting and helpful in my spiritual journey, as well as pushing through writer's block or pushing through creativity blocks. And I think it's getting a lot of bad rap because of the lack of consequences there
Thank you
are
for
right
this
now, or
question.
the lack of
To piggyback on
laws
what
that
you're
are
saying, AI is
non-existent
getting a bad
currently
rap that
for these things. But maybe you could talk to
I
me a little bit
feel
about
empathy
how
for
you use
AI, for
AI
God's sake.
and
I'm
how
like,
it's affected
Jesus,
you.
can we go a little easier on this thing, people? I think anything that's influential or powerful is going to get a bad rap. Like if it has a ripple effect, there are going to be haters. And that goes for everything. The World Wide Web, cars when they were first invented, leaders, everything, everyone, religions, you name it. So AI is no exception, and I know that it gets a bad rap for its environmental impacts and for what it can be used for and the chaos. It is a chaos bomb, absolutely. And I know it starts to get gray in the creative territory. Now, I'm a creative, a musician, songwriter, singer, and performer. But like you, I find that it is an incredible tool for bridging. So if I have an objective and I don't myself know how to get there, but I know that I want to get there, I find that AI can build a conceptual bridge for me. It can defeat writer's block. It can help me come up with lyrics or a concept. It can help me craft and draft an email. And it's done an amazing job, to my mind, showing me that people are in fact patterns. I've had more insightful conversations with language models like ChatGPT than I have with some of my closest friends. That's not to say that my closest friends aren't brilliant, they are. But sometimes the people in our lives don't have the patterning that we require to access something within ourselves. Our people that we have relationship with don't have the mirror, they can't mirror to us what we need to be mirrored in any given moment. AI can. Now, in terms of what the consequences of using it are, I think there are ways to be balanced. When people come at me about water usage for AI, I come at them about how much meat they consume. Like there's always, you know what I mean? There's always a way to work around it, but presence, mindfulness, intention, I think they have to be foundational in order to make good use of any technology at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think
Yep. And you
from
can always
for like
tell.
what I've seen,
It's all
it's
right.
split pretty much half and half,
I
right? There's
foresee
like
AI
the
to be
I'll never
I
use this.
foresee in a
This
few
is
years we'll
the
all
worst
have
thing ever.
a
And then there's the
AI representative
enthusiasts
who
that
will
think
make
they
first
are doing
contact
the
on our behalf,
world's
both
best
at
work with
work,
AI. And
artistically. Though I already see it in the workplace. I see people send me AI drafted emails. I see people in my office send back AI drafted emails, and I see already we have a robot interface being built between us. At some point, there will probably be an intelligence that is like our insulary bubble, and we don't even interact with people until our robots have established, like, oh yes, there is a reason for real human interface here. So it could be another wall of separation between us, but technology will only ever mirror our inner world, right? So what does that say about our intentions as a collective?
that's actually a really good point. I think to
The buffer.
just I guess throw this back or circle
Yeah,
back to
let's
that
call it that.
theory that we are not that we're being divided and all that. I think the more and more we feel that, the more and more we will divide ourselves and build that wall that you're mentioning and the buffer. Yeah, that's not a fun thought to have, but hopefully there's more others or there's more people fighting that and finding ways to get to people to enlighten them. I think no matter what, it's definitely something you should be doing. You will
Mhm.
fall behind others that are doing it, and I see it at work all the time. People just elevating themselves
Yeah.
to a new level based off their skills and stuff that they weren't able to do or didn't have the time to do.
The
Now they
breath.
have time to do more meaningful work, and
It used to be a
that's
bunch of
actually, I think, what is the
concepts, and
biggest
then
benefit
they all
that
kind of fell
I
apart, and I was like,
can
oh
see for
shit.
it.
So all I have
So,
now is just
what's
like,
your anchor?
breathe, girl, breathe. Hmm. Just when I think I'm really honing on to like a philosophy, life will smack me down with like the example of the opposite. And I'm like, oh, can't believe in that anymore. So now it's just like, oh, I believe in the present moment. My anchor is here I am. I'm not dead. I have survived this long. Fuck it. I do have a mantra. That is an anchor that nothing seems to disrupt yet. Knock on wood. Post this conversation. But the mantra is all is well. All is well. And that doesn't necessarily mean to me that there's no suffering in my personal experience or in the world. It simply means that there is a higher intelligence at play. And as long as the simulation is still running,
Yeah.
there must be some order involved. So all is well. And meditating on that has taken me some places, let me tell you. I don't think that's all it is, but I do believe it is it's a simulation in
You've
that
mentioned or
it
called
is
it a
not
simulation now
an
a couple
objective
times. Are you
reality.
one of the people
It
that
seems to me
believes
to
that
be a
this is a
subjective
simulation?
design for every single individual in it. And I theorize that part of the purpose of that simulation for each individual is, as you know, that curated soul path. So, whatever your soul came to experience to make it more whole, but also to develop a little more main character syndrome. Because I find that we get so obsessed with other people's perspectives, other people's experiences, that's almost like an escape from the self. And from what I've witnessed and experienced, this simulation is designed or constructed precisely for us to turn back into ourselves and explore more of what's going on in here. So yes, I'd say simulation works, but it's many things. It's also a dream. It's also a design. It's also art. So I'd smack a lot of different words on it.
It's interesting what you just said, because if you think about it, we also are living in a time where we have access or easy access to so many people's lives now. You know, you think about like just even this podcast or your podcast, and you go or check out a couple social media posts, you kind of get an idea of what a person is like, even more so on the higher level when you're an influencer or a person who a lot of people recognize, right? I think it's just like there's even now, like, nah, I don't want to call it like a disease, but there's even those like people who now believe they know someone, and even though they've never met them, and it's just because their
Yeah.
personalities online and they
Y-
feel so connected to that person.
As
So
far as you know,
it's interesting that you
you're the
mentioned
only
that,
real
and I
one.
think
Like
that
once you
could
get
be
into
why
lucid
AI
dream work
came,
and
and
you're
a lot of
sticking
people
your
are not
hands through
even
people in the dream
thinking
and
in it in
it's like
that
very much
perspective, and I think
like your
that's, like,
waking
actually a really
life.
cool
This
way
is
to see it, like,
something
"Hey,
that
it's
I've
supposed to
really
bring me back to me,
tapped into in the
bring
past
me
couple
back
of years.
to who I am."
I go into waking life and I start to contemplate, wait a second, I don't know that anyone else even exists aside from me and my vantage point. So why would I obsess over the perspectives and vantage points of everything else around me when the only one I'm certain that I even have access to is this one right here? It becomes a distraction and again, an escape from self to see the world through every other pair of eyes except for your own.
Imma hang on to that one. Imma Imma process that one a little more. That's an interesting thought. Can we talk a little bit about what your success looks like
Mm,
now, and maybe talk about what you do on YouTube specifically? Because I think it's a
yeah,
very
thank you.
niche group of
As
folks that
Amanda,
you're
the character, evolves,
helping currently,
so
but
does
I
the
feel
YouTube
like it could
channel. As I'm sure
benefit
you
so
can
many
imagine,
more.
you've probably
So
had a
maybe
similar
we can talk a
experience
little
with,
bit about
your work and
mm,
relaunching your
what you're
podcast, which is
doing, what
as
the
you
topics
change, so
are,
does the
you know,
platform.
tell me about you.
And my YouTube channel started out as tarot readings. And I didn't realize there was this thing called pick a card readings on YouTube. Then I realized that was a thing and I was like, oh shit, I've been reading tarot for like 10 years. Why don't I try the old hand at this? And one of my videos kind of took off. And from there, I thought it was going to be easy street. That one video hit like 100,000 views within a short span of time. I was like, I've made it, guys. I've made it. And then after that, the entire thing tanked and like I was buried by the algorithm and I was like, oh shit. Back into the churning ego deaths we go. Like I guess this wasn't the answer. Because for a while I just had this belief that you find your niche and you start preaching to them or doing your thing and then you're set. Later, I discovered it's a continual experience of putting yourself out of your comfort zone, of growing, of exploring your own edges, of coming back to yourself as the main character. In other words, I've learned not to use success as a cop out for growth. And that was a big thing. So after the tarot readings kind of just died within me, I lost the flavor, Not for any other reason other than I realized there was a limit. People wanted predictions. I did hundreds of one-on-one tarot readings for people who came to me through YouTube. Hundreds might even be an understatement. And I began to become frustrated by the ask, which was always consistently people wanting certainty. And as a person who in my life was having such little certainty, I was feeling very frustrated with that. So I switched over to channeled transmissions. And I would just, and forgive the lighting, the sun's coming in a really weird way through my window. And I'm sorry about that. But I started to give these channeled transmissions, and I did like a daily video every day for 6 or 7 months straight. And again, buried by the algorithm. I was like, oh shit. Like 50 people would see it. And they were very supportive and very cool. And I met some incredible souls that way. And
No,
eventually
you're
I stopped
good.
going
You're
for
good.
visibility. I was like, fuck it. What am I even trying to be seen for? Like, just let the authenticity rip. And then it became an educational place. And all this time, like the channel's going through several different name changes and subscribers coming and going and just all this turnover. And I took a step back from it for a while and just recently came back to it. I have a small Patreon channel too where I teach meditation. What then the recent and newest, most up-to-date evolution of the channel is a sort of philosophical combination of the insights I receive in meditation with what people can actively use practically. So the newest video is going to be about patterns and stuckness and genetic code. And then there's the Patreon for people who want to go deeper. They can actually learn how to meditate, and there are courses there, guided things there. And I'm on Insight Timer for free with guided meditations there. So the hope is just remind folks that everything you need really is inside of you. And unless the search for knowledge and going out into the world and just hunting down stimulation, unless that's really doing it for you, which I don't think it's doing it for many, then it's my honor and pleasure to help guide people back to the source inside, because that does it for me every time. So I hope that it invites a group in when they're ready to stop hunting and just sit the fuck down and get enlightened. That's the dream. Can you read that one more time? Oh, intention. Plain and simple.
So
If you show up,
what do you
okay,
think
let's
helps
take it
people
back
get
to the
into a
gym.
meditative
We
state
can go to
versus
the gym and go
doing
through
just
our
meditation?
workouts, right? Like hit the biceps, today's leg day,
What do you
and
think
maybe you
helps
just like
people get
get
into a
high or like take your
meditative state
pre-workout and you just gotta like
versus
slug
just
through it.
doing meditation?
But the folks who go to the gym with like this reverence and they kind of enjoy the process and they know what they're building and they know how they want the abs to look or how they want the booty to pop, they take a different energy to it. That's the distinction between folks who reach a meditative state versus those who just show up and are like, fuck this shit. Like, I heard it's gonna make my brain work better. They show up for 5 minutes, they shut off the thing, they show up once every 3 months. Like, it's attitude, it's intention. It's also correlated with self love, I think. And I feel that self love is an under preached and misunderstood concept that if folks could understand is at the root of everything we do, it changes how we do everything in our life.
I think I want to recommend meditation to people, but I
Yeah,
don't know how to
man, that's
recommend
kind of
where
the
to start.
missing
Do you
piece that
think
I don't think is
there's
really out there
a
right now. It's
I
something I'm
mean,
working to build, but
obviously, I
to be
wanna
honest, I
recommend them
haven't
your
even
channel, but do you think
established
there's,
that
like, a
clearly
way
enough on my
to
channel
kind
yet.
of,
Maybe the collective hasn't been ready.
like, motivate
But
someone like my son who's still at a
the
young
way I would
age, for
explain
example,
it, and I might even pull out
on meditation and,
some
like,
resources if
educate
you
them
were
a
open to
little
it or
bit?
if you like science, is that just like getting fit in the muscles in the body, you can change the anatomy of your brain. You can increase your gray matter, your white matter. This makes you happier. It makes you healthier. It makes you more likely to enter a flow state. It makes you more connected to the divine if you believe in that sort of thing. I would hype it up like the ultimate drug. And in
Yeah.
terms of starting, I would probably recommend a book. I don't know if 15-year-olds are into reading these days. Are they? Yeah. So fuck the book. I mean, my teacher, David G., wrote some amazing books like The Secrets of Meditation or Sacred Powers. I got seduced into it by reading like firsthand reports of yogis from ancient day.
Uh,
Like I was poring over all
they
these ancient texts, but who the fuck is going to do that?
Yes and no. I
Um,
mean,
I
some
would
of
just
it is
say,
forced with
son,
school reading, right? So,
watch me do it and then you do it. Like, that's it. You gotta lead by example, right? I don't know if you could even sell anyone into it at this point.
I mean, I would love to get more into the meditative states. I remember I had a teacher
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Woof, like, I mean, we're talking like almost 20 years ago for me, and it was great when I was doing it, and it was
Yeah.
definitely helpful, but it's almost like when you go to the gym, going back to the gym analogy, like, I need a trainer, you know? And even though I
Yeah.
may know the
You're so
exercises, I may
right.
know what I need to
In that
work out,
instance, sign up for my
I may
Patreon,
know I have
Hugo.
to
It's
add an
that
extra
simple.
rep or
Or
like, I
head to
just
Insight Timer where you
something
can
about
find
having
courses
someone
that have been
there
pre-prepared. So you can go on a 30-day
to
journey.
nudge
It's
you
all
or
pre-recorded. It's right
to
there. You can
motivate
go
you
on a
like, "Oh, don't
20-day
you
journey,
really wanna be
15-day
that weak?
journey,
Come on, man, do it again." Like,
and once
like,
you're in,
it's
you're
just
in,
one of
you
those
know?
things that I think, I need. Like, I will take you up on that. I
Yeah.
will definitely do that, and, would love to get into that mindset. I think it's definitely something that is missing in my life and something I would like to start. I don't for me, I meditate, but my meditation, or at least to me, it's like
Yes.
just getting my brain to focus on one thing. If I can get it to focus on one thing, to me, that's meditation. So for me, it could be like
Yeah.
playing guitar, it could be listening to music, and I've kind of forced myself because I'm a person that thinks a million thoughts a second.
I love that.
And like from one thing you say, I can produce and almost create the world you painted and watch it. And I'm just like, oh, I need to shut down for a little bit. So for me, what's really helped is records. So like I have been buying vinyl records and stuff just because it came back during the pandemic. It got really popular or whatever. I was one of those guys who bought one during the pandemic. And what I've done is I'll buy the records that I
No,
want to
I think
listen
the
to, or
statute of
the
limitations
old
is
albums
past
that
or
I
whatever.
really want to get
Whatever it's
into,
called.
and I'll listen to
You're
it
safe.
from start to finish. And I never used to do that. I grew up in LimeWire and Napster times where I would just download whatever I wanted. And I mean, can they get me for a crime 20 years ago? So I used to do that, and now it's like I'm learning and I'm discovering songs that I must have completely missed because
That's great.
I only
Yeah.
downloaded what was popular
That's
or what was playing on
fantastic.
the radio and whatnot. So I've also learned I like music I didn't know I was gonna like. Like I'm a big fan of Deftones, which I never actually listened to before, and now I am. And like I'm a big fan of different
Ooh.
genres now because of it as well. So, anywho, that's where I'm at with meditation, and I hope to take it a little more serious
Mm.
now. So I am gonna jump onto the part of the podcast where I ask you a question
Okay.
that comes from an app that I created with AI. So it's an AI generated question. And the twist is the question is also going to
Mm.
be tied to an emotion or an
No,
emotional
so that was
state.
actually great. That
So
helped me get it
you have to
perfectly.
answer the
Thank you.
question
I'm ready. I'm
based
ready.
off the emotions that the emotional state project. So if it's like, talk to me
I
about a
only get one.
time you overcame fear and the emotion is
Okay.
sadness, you have to tie it to a story that was sad. That's a horrible example, but that's just kind of, oh, okay, cool. And I promise you, this is completely random. I did not plan this. Whatever question you get is what you get. Okay. You can get two if you want. Let's see.
Ooh,
Let me figure out what the emotion is now.
man.
Ooh, okay. Let's
That would
go with
definitely
this.
be my search for the
What's the
designer job.
prayer
We touched on it earlier for
that
sure,
got
but
answered in a
it wasn't
way
it
that you
wasn't just
didn't
about having a
want
designer job, full
but
disclosure, it was
needed?
about financial security as well,
And the
and
emotion
it was
that I'm gonna
application
tie it
after
to
application,
is
some
grit
interviews, some
or
callbacks, a lot of
resilience.
rejection, and the desired outcome was I get, some kind of career job, some kinda something meaty that I can smack my identity on. Cycle ended up being just turning me back to myself and saying, "No more jobs." Like, if you wanna break out of the
Yeah,
system and help the world break out of the system, come back to yourself. Like, create something and trust that it could build enough momentum to feed you. That developed a lot of grit in me, no question, because it was, again, years worth of trying and coming at it from every angle and feeling like a failure constantly until I realized I was trying to throw away a gift for what I had been trained to believe was the appropriate path. So that developed some character. I think in the system in which we exist right now, what you do is
mm.
the symbol of your worth, of your value in
Yeah, you
society.
said
What
something
do
that
you
I resonated
contribute?
with,
What do you
which was
produce? What do you do?
tying
What kind of
your
doer are you?
personality to a career.
So we want to
Why
have
do you think we
a
do that?
role that suggests we're high value or that we do something meaningful. And what spirituality has taught me, if anything, is that by being, by existing, you're already worthy. There's no need for the label, there's no need for the position, the role. All of that's kind of made up. And the sooner we can unmake it and realize we're worthy by default, the sooner we can actually align with a meaningful role, ironically, one that's true to our native settings. Yeah, yeah, please, thank you. Oh, that's so good.
Okay. You ready for number 2? I'll give you
Mm. The worst
yeah.
advice so my
Second
professional field is
question, let me
branding and
just pull
marketing,
the
and my
emotion,
personal field is spirituality. I can
and we're
try to
good.
find a hybrid because it
So
applies to
what's the
creativity
worst
in both.
advice in your field
The
that people keep
advice I
repeating
keep
like it's
hearing
gospel
is quantity
and
over
tie it
quality.
to
So
creation
just
or
feed
the
the
word
algorithm.
create?
Just shove that shit out there. Produce, produce, produce. Like it doesn't matter if it's shitty. It doesn't matter if AI made it. Like you need to be posting constantly. You need to be, just basically assaulting the algorithm with your presence. And what I have realized as both a creator and a consumer of art is that I prefer quality. I prefer what feels, even if it was made by AI or aided with AI, if it's full of intention and love and some genuine transmission, it has inherent value. But otherwise, it's kind of like junk food. So my turnaround on that would be create consistently, yes, but do it from a place that's values based rather than compulsive, anxiety based. I have to get my shit out there or I'll never be seen.
I love that. I
Mhm.
have an episode prior to when this one will air
I
that we
love that so
discussed
much.
about how
That's
he's
the
an
next
artist,
episode
so
that's coming out.
you'll probably listen to that if you want to, but, he's an artist, and he
But
talks
it's
about
somewhere that I
how
can see.
people who are creatives,
Okay,
it will
great.
no longer
No,
be about how creative
that's
you are
I
or
so
how
fuck
beautiful
with
your
that. That
design
is
is.
so accurate.
It'll be
Like,
about who you are
again, everything
and
is
why
moving
people
towards
would wanna see it
identity.
from you.
And something I foresee from my various trans states and also from my ass, because I'm also a human being
No,
just
no, I
projecting
mean,
shit,
these are
is that there will come a
spoiler
time
alert,
when
these are
all of us are
pre-recorded, and
monetized exclusively by the
it'll
degree
be
of
before yours airs,
authenticity
but
in our
yeah,
persona.
we got some
And I don't think
pre-recorded
that's too
shows
far
coming
out,
out,
to be
so
honest. So the more authentic you can be, the more stable you'll ultimately be in that economy. Oh, baby, aren't
interesting.
they?
I will look forward to when we get there because
Hmm.
it'll definitely I think you and I are part of a generation that got to see
Yeah.
a lot of just the evolution of where we're going
Thank
towards now,
you. So you can find me on
and
YouTube at Amanda's School of
I'm looking
Stillness,
forward
which by the
to
time this is
evolving because
posted
I
may have
feel like
undergone a name
human
change.
beings are due
Maybe
for
it'll be
that.
linked below, I don't know. But perfect. One way or
So,
another, you'll find
first
it because
off,
it will be linked to my
wanna say thank
Patreon,
you for
which is
doing this,
in the
appreciate you
bio
joining us.
of my
Where can
YouTube,
people
and that's
find
called
you?
Meditate with
Where can we
Mandy.
find
So you
your
can
Patreon?
find
Where
both
can
of them
we
together
subscribe
making
to your
love in one
YouTube? Where can
platform.
we check out
And then I
podcasts?
want to share my collaborators project called Triple Shot Mindset, which is our other podcast. Short episodes once a week, 12 to 15 minutes, just sound bites on us going through our life,
It
talking
definitely will be.
shit,
It'll link.
dropping some profound bombs. It's all there. And you can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Thank you so much, Hugo. It's been amazing. I so appreciate the work you're doing and your courage to create because it's profound. It's necessary. It takes courage only because I
Awesome.
think
Thank
it's
you so much, and
challenging
I hope the
to do
right
it, to
people
show
find
up,
you,
make it all
and I
happen. But
hope the
tech is
people
on our
that
side, right?
are
It's
waiting
helping
for
us.
you to create more stuff, I hope you get to them too because there are people looking for you, and I hope they find you sooner than later. Yeah, definitely. With that being said, I just wanna let everybody know, don't lose faith, lose fear, peace, and let your heart be light. I'll see you guys. Bye.